Captain Haniel Kim stood in the center of the massive chamber, her hands clasped behind her back. The Galactic Council Hall stretched high above her, filled with beings from across the galaxy. Crystal creatures that looked like living diamonds sat next to insect-like aliens with too many arms. Gas beings floated in special containers, their forms shifting like colored smoke. The human diplomatic ship Serenity had traveled for months to reach this place. Earth had sent their best people to ask for one simple thing: full membership in the galactic community. Humans had been watching the stars for generations, dreaming of joining the great civilizations out there. Now Haniel stood before them all, wearing her best uniform. The Earth flag patch on her shoulder seemed small compared to the grand symbols of the alien empires around her. She had practiced her speech hundreds of times. She knew every word about human achievements, their art, their science, their desire for peace. "Honored council members," Haniel began, her voice clear and strong. "Humanity comes before you today with open hearts and minds. We seek to join the galactic community as equals, to share our knowledge and learn from yours." A sound like breaking glass filled the chamber. It was laughter. The crystal beings were making that noise, their bodies flashing with bright colors. The insect creatures clicked their mandibles together in what could only be mockery. Council leader Zephyros rose from his crystal throne. His body was tall and sharp, like a living statue made of blue diamond. When he spoke, his voice rang like a bell. "Humans," he said, and the word sounded dirty in his mouth. "You call yourselves equals? You barely crawled out of your caves a few thousand years ago." More laughter echoed through the chamber. Haniel felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her face calm. Dr. Yuna Lee, her advisor, stood nearby with her tablet full of human achievements ready to share. Neither woman showed the anger building inside them. "We may be young as a species," Haniel replied, "but we have much to offer. Our technology, our culture, our perspective." "Technology?" Military advisor Kitenex interrupted. The insect being clicked forward on 6 legs, his 4 arms gesturing wildly. "You burn dead plants and split atoms like children playing with fire. Your fastest ships crawl through space like wounded animals." The gas being called Ethan spoke next, his voice coming from speakers around his containment field. "Your minds are simple. Your bodies are weak. You fight each other over imaginary lines on your single world." Haniel felt something cold settle in her stomach. This was not going as planned. "We have made great progress. Our people are united now. We've ended war on our world." "For how long?" Zephyros asked. "A few decades?" "We have maintained peace for millions of years." "You are children, pretending to be adults?" The council leader walked down the steps toward Haniel. Each footstep rang against the metal floor. "But we are not without mercy. We offer you protectorate status." "What does that mean?" Haniel asked, though she suspected she already knew. "You will place yourselves under our guidance," Kitenex explained. "Your military will be disbanded. Your weapons will be given to us for safekeeping. You will follow our laws and contribute to the galactic community as you are able." "As servants," Dr. Yuna Lee said quietly. "As children learning from their betters," Ethan corrected. 40% of your world's resources will go to council maintenance. Your ships will carry our goods. Your people will work where we direct them." Haniel's hands clenched behind her back. "And if we refuse?" The silence stretched long and cold. Zephyros smiled, an expression that looked wrong on his crystal face. "Then you will learn why primitive species do not refuse the Galactic Council. Your little blue world is very small compared to our fleets. We have defenses," Haniel said. "Missiles that explode?" Kitenex laughed again. "Energy weapons that barely scratch our shields? We have seen your weapons, human. We have seen your ships. A single one of our cruisers could glass your entire world." The chamber filled with alien voices, all talking at once. They spoke about humans like they were not there. Some suggested simply taking Earth's resources without bothering with protectorate status. Others wanted to use humans as laborers on dangerous worlds. "The decision is simple," Zephyros said, raising his hand for silence. "Accept protectorate status or face the consequences." We give you 30 of your days to decide? Haniel looked around the chamber one more time. These beings had traveled the stars for millions of years. Their ships were the size of cities. Their weapons could destroy planets. But something in their arrogance bothered her. Something in the way they dismissed humanity so easily. We will take your offer back to Earth, she said finally. Our leaders will consider your generous proposal. Wise, Ethan said. Though there is really only one choice for primitives like you. As the council session ended, Haniel and her team were escorted back to their ship. The aliens made no effort to hide their contempt. Guard creatures pushed them along like they were livestock being moved to market. Once aboard the Serenity, Haniel sealed the doors and activated privacy shields. Dr. Yuna Lee immediately started checking for listening devices while the rest of the crew prepared for departure. Did you record everything? Haniel asked. Every word, Yuna confirmed. And I picked up something interesting in their background chatter. They're already dividing up human space between the three empires. This was never about giving us a choice. Haniel nodded grimly. She had suspected as much. The contempt in their voices was too real, too deep. These beings saw humans as resources to be harvested, nothing more. Captain, her communications officer called out. We're receiving departure clearance. They want us gone within the hour. Set course for Earth, Haniel ordered. Maximum burn. I want to get home as fast as possible. As the Serenity pulled away from the council station, Haniel looked back at the massive structure. Ships from dozens of species moved around it like insects around a hive. Each one was larger and more advanced than anything humanity had built, or so they believed. Captain, Dr. Yuna Lee said quietly, there's something else. I detected some unusual energy signatures from their ships. They're not as advanced as they pretend to be. What do you mean? Their technology is old, really old? Like they haven't invented anything new in thousands of years? They're just using the same designs over and over. Haniel filed that information away. It might be important later. For now, she had to focus on getting home and delivering the bad news to Earth's leaders, dots as stars stretched into lines around them. Haniel thought about the council's words, primitive children, barely evolved. The aliens had made one mistake in their arrogance. They had assumed they knew everything about humanity. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The journey back to Earth would take 2 weeks. 2 weeks to prepare for what was coming. 2 weeks before humanity had to make a choice that would decide their fate among the stars, but Haniel suspected the choice had already been made. The moment those aliens called humans primitive, they had sealed their own fate. They just didn't know it yet. The elevator descended deep beneath Seoul, carrying Captain Haniel Kim and Dr. Yuna Lee down into the Earth. They had been traveling for what felt like an hour, though Haniel had lost count of the levels they passed. The elevator finally stopped. With a soft chime, the doors opened to reveal a corridor that stretched into darkness. Motion sensors activated lights as they walked, revealing walls made of some kind of metal that seemed to absorb sound. Their footsteps were muffled and strange. "This way, Captain," said General Daeho Choi. He had met them at the surface and led them down without explanation. The old soldier's face was grim. His uniform bearing decorations from conflicts most people had forgotten. They reached a massive door marked with symbols Haniel had never seen before. General Choi placed his hand on a scanner, then looked into a device that examined his eye. The door split apart with a sound like thunder. Beyond was a room that took Haniel's breath away. The Strategic Command Center was enormous, filled with screens and workstations that hummed with quiet energy. People in military uniforms moved between the stations, all of them focused on their tasks with intense concentration. At the center of it all stood Admiral Minho Park. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes that had seen too much. When he saw Haniel, he smiled sadly. "Captain Kim," he said, walking over to greet her. "I watched your transmission from the council station. They didn't give you much respect." "No, sir," Haniel replied. They made their feelings about humanity very clear. "Show me everything," the Admiral said. For the next hour, Haniel played the recordings from the council meeting. The room grew quieter as more people stopped their work to listen. When the aliens called humans primitive and barely evolved, several officers clenched their fists. When they heard about the protectorate status and the demand for 40% of Earth's resources, the anger in the room became thick enough to touch. 30 days, Dr. Lee said when the recording ended. They gave us 30 days to surrender, or face their fleets. Admiral Park was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked to one of the large screens and activated it. The display showed star charts and ship movements throughout the galaxy. "We've been watching them," he said. "Ever since we first detected their signals 50 years ago, we've had people monitoring their communications. Dr. Lee, show them what." "We found," Una connected her tablet to the room systems. New information appeared on the screens around them. Ship deployments, resource movements, and intercepted messages filled the displays. "They're not planning to honor any agreement," Una explained. "We broke their military code 6 months ago. They've already decided to strip Earth of everything valuable and eliminate the human population." General Troy stepped forward. "They've done this 17 times before. 17 civilizations that trusted the Galactic Council. Each one was destroyed completely." The room fell silent. Haniel felt cold as she realized the truth. This had never been about giving humanity a choice. The aliens had come to steal everything Earth had and kill everyone who lived there. "What are our options?" she asked. Admiral Park smiled, but it was not a happy expression. "We show them what happens when someone threatens humanity." He walked to another console and entered a long code. The screens around the room changed, showing new information that made Haniel gasp. Ship designs, weapon specifications, and technology that looked impossible. "Sir," she said slowly, "what am I looking at?" "The truth about human technology," Admiral Park replied. "What you saw at the council station, what they think is our best technology, represents about 5% of our actual capabilities, Doctor." Una Lee stared at the displays in shock. "These weapons, these ships, how is this possible?" General Troy answered her. 300 years ago, we found something in deep space. A derelict ship floating between the stars. It was old, older than human civilization, but it was built by humans." "That's impossible," Haniel said. "We thought so too," Admiral Park said, "until we studied it. The ship was from a human civilization that existed 50,000 years ago, a galactic empire that fell before our recorded history began." The Admiral activated another display, showing the ancient ship they had found. It was massive and beautiful, its design both familiar and alien. Human hands had built it, but human minds far more advanced than anything Earth had ever produced. "We learned that humanity once ruled the galaxy," General Troy continued. "The same 3 alien empires that just insulted you destroyed our ancestors' civilization. They've been using scavenged human technology ever since." Haniel felt dizzy. Everything she thought she knew about humanity's place in the galaxy was wrong. "How many people know about this?" "Fewer than 1,000, Admiral Park said. "We've spent 3 centuries rebuilding what our ancestors once knew. The ships you see in orbit around Earth are just for show. Our real fleet has been hidden." He entered another command, and the displays showed something that made Haniel's heart race. A massive shipyard hidden in the outer solar system, filled with vessels that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie. "We'd been preparing for this day since we found that first ship," the Admiral said. "The day when the galaxy would threaten humanity again." Dr. Una Lee was studying the technical specifications on her tablet. "These energy outputs?" "Sir, a single one of these ships could destroy everything the aliens sent to threaten us." "Just one ship," General Troy agreed. "But we're not going to use just one ship." Admiral Park turned to face Haniel directly. "Captain, I'm offering you a choice. You can return to your normal duties and forget what you've seen here, or you can help us show the galaxy that humanity is not primitive." Haniel thought about the contempt in the aliens' voices, the way they had laughed at human achievements. The casual way they had planned to enslave or destroy her entire species. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. "First, we need you to send a response to the Galactic Council," Admiral Park said. "Tell them we need time to consider their generous offer. Keep them talking while we prepare. And then?" The Admiral's smile became sharp. "Then we wake up our most dangerous ship and remind the galaxy why they should fear humans." He led them to another section of the command center where a single screen showed a ship unlike anything Haniel had ever seen. It was enormous, dark, and covered with weapons that hurt her eyes to look at. "Meet the ancestor," Admiral Park said. 15 kilometers of humanity's anger, built with technology that makes their weapons look like stone axes. General Troy pulled up the ship's specifications. "It's been sleeping in the outer system for 50 years, waiting for this moment. The crew has been in cryogenic sleep, dreaming of the day they could avenge our ancestors." "How many people?" Haniel asked. 2,000 of our best," Admiral Park replied. "Volunteers who knew they might sleep for decades before their mission began. They've been training their entire lives for one purpose, to show the galaxy that humanity remembers what was done to us." Dr. Una Lee was still staring at the technical data. "Sir, these weapons, they could destroy star systems." "If necessary," the Admiral said quietly. "But I suspect we won't need to go that far. The aliens have forgotten what real human technology can do. They've gotten comfortable being the bullies of the galaxy." He turned back to Haniel. "Are you with us, Captain?" Haniel thought about the alien voices calling her species primitive children. She thought about their plans to enslave humanity and strip Earth bare. She thought about 17 other civilizations that had trusted these same aliens and been destroyed for it. "Yes, sir," she said. "What are your orders?" Admiral Park smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. "Send that message to the Council, then prepare for humanity to take its rightful place among the stars." As alarms began to sound throughout the command center, Haniel realized that Earth's peaceful facade was about to fall away. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to survive, adapt, and remember. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had threatened the children of a species that had once ruled the galaxy. Now their ancestors were waking up. The asteroid looked like any other piece of space rock floating in the darkness beyond Neptune. Its surface was cratered and gray, spinning slowly as it had for millions of years. But inside, something ancient was stirring to life. Commander Seo-jun. Han opened his eyes for the first time in 30 years. The cryogenic pod hissed as it released the chemicals that had kept him in perfect sleep. His body felt strange, cold, and stiff, but his mind was sharp. The training had worked. Even after 3 decades of sleep, he remembered everything. "Commander Han, please respond," a voice said in his earpiece. It was soft and familiar, though. He couldn't quite place it. "I'm awake," he said, his voice rough from disuse. "Status report. All systems are green, Commander. The crew is being awakened according to protocol. Admiral Park sends his compliments and says it's time." Seo-jun smiled as he climbed out of the pod. After 50 years of preparation, 30 years of sleep, and a lifetime of training, humanity was finally ready to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. He dressed quickly in his uniform, black with silver trim that seemed to absorb light. The fabric was made from materials that didn't officially exist, woven with threads stronger than diamond. On his chest was a badge showing a silver tree with roots that reached into space. The symbol of the ancestor and her crew. The corridor outside his quarters was coming alive. Other crew members were emerging from their pods, moving with the practiced efficiency of people who had trained together for decades. They nodded to Seo-jun as he passed, their faces showing the same mixture of excitement and determination he felt. The ship itself was waking up around them. Lights flickered on in sequence, following pathways designed by human minds 50,000 years ago. The air recycling systems hummed to life, providing the clean, cool atmosphere that would keep them alive in the vacuum of space. Seo-jun made his way to the bridge, his feet following paths he had walked in simulation thousands of times. The ancestor was enormous, 15 kilometers from bow to stern, but he knew every corridor and junction. This ship was his home, his weapon, and his responsibility. The bridge was a massive chamber at the heart of the vessel. Holographic displays showed star charts, system status, and tactical information. The crew was already at their stations, running diagnostics and preparing for what was to come. "Commander on the bridge," announced Lieutenant Commander Ji-Won Kang. She was his tactical officer, a woman who could calculate firing solutions faster than most computers. Her dark hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and her eyes were already focused on the weapons displays. "Report," Seojin ordered as he took his place in the command chair. Chief Engineer Nhayu spoke first. She was a small woman with quick hands and a mind that understood technology better than anyone alive. "All systems operational, Commander. The gravitational wave generators are at full power. Reality distortion fields are stable. The stellar cascade weapon is ready for activation. Navigation?" Navigator Borum Lim looked up from her console. "Course plotted to the Nexus point, sir. The alien fleets are gathering there as expected. Transit time at maximum velocity is 72 hours. Communications?" Communications Officer Hyok Chun nodded. "We're receiving updates from Earth Command. The aliens are mobilizing everything they have. 10,000 ships? Maybe more." Seojin felt a cold satisfaction. The aliens were bringing their entire military might to crush what they saw as a primitive human rebellion. They had no idea what was waiting for them. "Commander," a new voice said. It came from everywhere and nowhere, soft and musical. "It's good to see you awake." "Hello, GAIA," Seojun said to the ship's artificial intelligence. "How are you feeling?" "Eager," the AI replied. "I've been dreaming for 30 years about this moment. Dr. Narration would be proud." Gaia spoke with the voice of Dr. Narration, the brilliant scientist who had designed the Ancestor before dying of old age 20 years ago. Her consciousness had been preserved in the ship's quantum core, allowing her to guide and protect the vessel even after death. "The aliens have no idea what's coming," Gaia continued. "Their technology is based on scavenged remains from our ancestors' civilization. They've learned to use our weapons, but they never understood how they work." Seojin stood and walked to the main display. It showed the alien fleet gathering at the Nexus point, their ships arranged in formations that had worked for them for thousands of years. They were confident, comfortable, and completely unprepared for what humanity was about to unleash. "Show me the ancient records," he said. The display changed, showing images from 50,000 years ago. A galaxy-spanning human civilization, with ships that moved between stars like thoughts across a mind, cities that floated in space, larger than planets, technology that made the current alien empires look like children playing with toys. "This is what the aliens destroyed," Gaia said. "Our ancestors ruled the galaxy through wisdom and strength. They offered alliance to other species, but when those species chose war instead, humanity showed them why that was a mistake." The display showed the final battle of the ancient war. Human ships fighting desperately against the combined alien fleets, their technology failing as they were overwhelmed by sheer numbers. The last human strongholds falling one by one until only scattered survivors remained. "The aliens thought they had won," Seojun said. "They thought they had destroyed humanity forever." "But humanity endures," Chief Engineer Unhayu said. "We adapt, we survive, we remember. And we return," Lieutenant Commander Ji-Won Kang added, her voice hard as steel. Seojun turned back to his crew. 2,000 people who had volunteered to sleep for decades, waiting for this moment. They were the best humanity had to offer: scientists, engineers, warriors, and strategists. Each one had trained their entire life for the mission ahead. "The aliens called us primitive," he said. "They think we're children who don't understand the galaxy. They're about to learn that we're not the children. We're the adults coming home to deal with the bullies who hurt our family." The crew smiled, and Seojun saw the hunger for justice in their eyes. These people had studied the records of what the aliens had done to 17 other species. They knew about the enslavements, The genocides, the casual cruelty of beings who thought might made right. Chief Yu, begin charging the main weapons, Sojun ordered. Navigation, plot our course. Communications, send a message to Earth, tell Admiral Park that the ancestor is awake and ready. Yes, sir, came the chorus of replies as the ship began. To move, Seojin felt the hum of technology that bordered on magic. The ancestor was more than a warship. It was a piece of humanity's soul, forged from their anger at what had been done and their determination to make sure it never happened again. Gaia, he said quietly, what do you think our ancestors would say about what we're about to do? The AI was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 50,000 years of human memory. I think they would say it's about time, she replied. The galaxy has forgotten what happens when you threaten humanity. We're going to remind them. The ancestor slipped away from its hiding place, invisible to alien sensors, moving toward a confrontation that had been 50 millennia in the making. Behind them, the ancient asteroid continued its slow rotation, no longer hiding the weapon that would change the galaxy forever. The aliens were waiting at the nexus point, confident in their superiority. They had no idea that their victims' children were coming home, and they were very, very angry. The ancestor moved through space like a ghost, its hull shifting between dimensions to avoid detection. Commander Seojin Han stood on the bridge, watching the stars stream past as the ship traveled faster than anything the aliens had ever built. Phase drive operating at optimal efficiency, Navigator Boram Lim reported. We're moving through folded space without leaving any traces. Good, Seojin replied. The longer they remain unaware of us, the better. The ship's journey to the galactic core would take 3 days, but Seojin used the time to study their enemies. The main display showed intercepted communications from the 3 alien empires as they prepared for war against humanity. Commander, Communications Officer Hyuk Chun said, you need to hear this. The bridge speakers crackled to life with alien voices. The translation computers converted their words into human speech, but the contempt in their tone needed no translation. The humans grow desperate, said a crystalline voice that belonged to High Admiral Zelanaga of the Vorthic Empire. Their messages speak of negotiations, but we know they are simply buying time. Let them, replied Supreme Queen Valtar of the Hegemony. Their pathetic fleet cannot delay the inevitable. When we crush their defenses, I want the survivors sorted. The young ones will make good laborers. The older ones can be processed for biological material. Collective Mind Ethon of the Nebula Confederation added its voice to the conversation. The human world has rich mineral deposits. Once we strip away the population, the planet will provide resources for centuries. The crew on the bridge listened to the aliens planning their genocide with casual indifference. Several officers clenched their fists, but they remained at their stations. They were professionals, and they had a job to do. How many ships? Lieutenant Commander Jiwon Kang asked. Current count is over 8,000, Hyuk replied. More arriving every hour. The aliens are bringing everything they have. They want. To make sure there are no human survivors, Gaia observed, her voice coming from the ship's speakers. They've learned from their mistakes with other species. Quick overwhelming force prevents any chance of resistance. Seojin nodded grimly. The aliens had perfected their technique over thousands of years. 17 civilizations had fallen to these tactics, each one believing they could negotiate or find a peaceful solution right up until the moment their worlds burned. Show me the target area, he ordered. The main display changed to show the nexus point, a region of space where several hyperspace routes converged. It was the perfect place for the aliens to gather their forces before striking at Earth. The tactical display showed their fleet arrangement, a massive formation designed to overwhelm any opposition through pure numbers. They're using the same formation they used against the Kaleri 60 years ago, Jiwan observed, and the Deshan Empire before that. They're not even trying to be creative. Why should they? Chief Engineer Hayu said from her station. It's worked 17 times. They see no reason to change. Seojin studied the alien formation with a strategist's eye. The Vorthic crystal ships formed the front line, their energy shields designed to absorb incoming fire. Behind them, the hegemony's biomechanical vessels provided support with living weapons that could adapt to enemy tactics. The Nebula Confederation's plasma ships served as mobile artillery, their energy-based forms allowing them to move quickly across the battlefield. It's actually a good formation, he admitted. Against any conventional fleet, this would be nearly unstoppable. But we're not conventional, Inha said with a smile. GAIA, show the commander our approach vector. The ship's eye highlighted a path through the alien formation that would take them directly to the center. We'll phase in right here, Gaia explained. The quantum distortion will mask our arrival until we choose to become fully real. How long will we have? Seojin asked. Perhaps 30 seconds before they can target us effectively, Gawan replied. Their sensors will need time to understand what they're seeing. More than enough, Seojin said. One salvo from our main guns should eliminate their command structure. The bridge fell quiet as the crew contemplated the battle ahead. They had trained for this moment their entire lives, but now that it was approaching, the magnitude of what they were about to do became real. Commander, Hayek said suddenly, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. Put it through. Admiral. Minho Park's face appeared on the screen. The old soldier looked tired but determined. Commander Han, I hope you're ready. The aliens just delivered their final ultimatum. Earth has 6 hours to surrender unconditionally or face total destruction. We're ready, Admiral, Seojin replied. What are your orders? Show them what happens when someone threatens humanity, Park said. But Seojin ... try to leave some survivors. The galaxy needs to remember this day. Understood, sir. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. 6 hours. In 6 hours, the alien fleets would begin their journey to Earth. Confident that they were about to add another species to their list of conquests, they had no idea that their victims were already waiting for them. All stations, prepare for battle, Seojin ordered. Chief Yu, bring all weapons to full power. Navigation, final approach to the target zone. Weapons charged and ready, Inha reported. Gravitational wave cannons are showing green across the board. Reality distortion torpedoes are armed. The stellar cascade generator is standing by. Course. Laid in, Borom said. We'll drop out of phase drive in 15 minutes. Seojin walked to the center of the bridge, where a holographic display showed the alien fleet in perfect detail. 10,000 ships, each one larger and more powerful than anything humanity was supposed to possess. Their crews were celebrating, already dividing up the spoils of their upcoming victory. You know what the worst part is? He said to his crew. They're enjoying this. They think exterminating an entire species is just another day's work. That's why we're here, Jawan said. To show them that actions have consequences. To remind them that humanity remembers, Anha added. To teach them what real power looks like, Borom said. To make them pay for what they did to our ancestors. Hayek finished. Seojin smiled, feeling the unity of his crew like a physical force. These people understood what they were fighting for. Not just Earth's survival, but justice for 50,000 years of alien cruelty. Gaia, he said, any last words from Dr. Shin? The AI was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of all human history. She says to remember that we are not the aggressors. We are the consequences. The ancestor dropped out of phase drive at the edge of the alien formation. For a few seconds, the ship existed in a state between dimensions invisible to enemy sensors. The crew made their final preparations, checking systems that had been designed by minds far greater than any the galaxy had seen in 50 millennia. All stations report ready, Juwan announced. Begin quantum materialization, Seojin ordered. Let's remind the galaxy why they used to fear humans. The ancestor began to phase into normal space, its massive hull becoming solid and real. In moments, the aliens would detect them and realize that their easy conquest had become something else entirely. The last human warship was about to show the galaxy what 50,000 years of anger looked like when it was finally unleashed. The debris field stretched across 3 star systems, a graveyard of metal and dreams that had floated in space for 50,000 years. Commander Sejong Han stood before the main display, watching ancient human ships drift past like ghosts. In the darkness. Incredible, Chief Engineer Unha, you whispered. There are millions of them. The Ancestor moved slowly through the wreckage, its sensors cataloging what remained of humanity's last great fleet. Ships the size of cities lay broken and dead, their hulls split open to reveal the bones of their crews still at their posts. They had died fighting, refusing to surrender even when defeat was certain. This is where it ended, Gaia said, her voice heavy with emotion. The final battle of the human galactic empire. Admiral Chun Wei made his last stand here with everything he had left. Navigator Borum Lim checked her instruments. The debris field extends for 40 light-years in every direction. How many ships were there? The records speak of 50,000 human vessels, Gaia replied. They faced 3 times that number of alien ships. The battle lasted for 6 months. Seojin felt cold as he imagined the ancient battle. Desperate human crews fighting against impossible odds, watching their empire die around them. Their families were already dead, their worlds already burned. They had nothing left to fight for except the hope that somewhere, somehow, humanity would survive to remember them. Commander, Communications Officer Hyok Chun called out, "We're receiving signals." From the debris field. Automated distress beacons, still broadcasting after all these years. Let me hear them. The bridge speakers crackled with static, then cleared to reveal voices speaking in ancient human languages. The translation computers worked to make sense of words that hadn't been spoken in 50 millennia. This is Captain Sarah Chun of the heavy cruiser Defiance. We are the last ship of the 5th Fleet. Our weapons are gone, our engines are dead, but we will not surrender. If anyone receives this message, remember us. Remember that humanity stood here and said no to extinction. Another voice joined the first. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb, Destroyer Vengeance. We've taken heavy damage, but we're still fighting. Tell our families we died as humans, free and proud. The messages continued, dozens of them, each one a final testament from crews who knew they were about to die. They spoke of love for their families, pride in their service, and hope that humanity would survive somewhere in the galaxy. Turn it off, Sejun said quietly. His crew looked at him with understanding. These were their ancestors, their predecessors who had paid the ultimate price for humanity's survival. Sir, Inha said suddenly, I'm detecting something unusual. The debris isn't just wreckage. There are intact I-cores in some of these ships. How? Many? Thousands? Maybe tens of thousands? They've been in standby mode, waiting for a human ship to wake them up. Seojin felt his heart race. If the ancient A's were still functional, they would contain the memories and knowledge of humanity's golden age. Technology, tactics, and information that could change everything. Gaia, can you interface with them? I'm already trying, the ship's AI replied. The protocols are ancient, but they're definitely human in origin. They're waking up. The main display suddenly filled with new information as the ancient A's came online. Star charts showing the extent of the old human empire, weapon designs that made the ancestors' arsenal look primitive, and tactical data from the final battle. By the stars, Jawan breathed. Look at these weapon specifications. Quantum cascade bombs that could destroy solar systems. Reality anchors that could lock enemy ships out of hyperspace permanently. The humans of that era were gods among mortals, Inha said, studying the technical readouts. Their technology was thousands of years ahead of anything that exists today. A new voice spoke from the speakers, old and tired, but unmistakably human. Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Chun Wei of the Terran Imperial Navy. I died 50,000 years ago, but my consciousness lives on in these systems. Who are you, and why do you carry human genetic markers? Seojin straightened. He was speaking to a legend, a man who had led humanity's final stand against the alien invasion. Admiral, this is Commander Sejong Han of the starship Ancestor. We are the descendants of the humans who escaped the fall of the Empire. Descendants? The ancient admiral said slowly. Then some of us survived. How many? Our homeworld has 8 billion people, sir. We've spent 50,000 years growing strong again. 8 billion, Chunwei whispered. From how many survivors? The records say perhaps 10,000 made it to Earth before the Empire fell. Silence stretched across the bridge. Then the Admiral's voice returned, stronger than before. 10,000 became 8 billion. Humanity endures. It adapts, it survives. Yes, sir, Xiaojun replied. And now we've come to finish what you started. Other voices joined the conversation as more AIs came online. Ship captains, fleet admirals, and strategic planners who had fought in the greatest war the galaxy had ever seen. They shared their knowledge freely, uploading tactical data and weapon specifications that had been lost for millennia. The aliens haven't changed, Admiral Chunwei observed. I'm monitoring their current fleet movements. Same formations, same tactics, same arrogance. They think they won because they had superior numbers, not because they were better. We're about to show them the difference, Xiaojun said. Good. But first, let me tell you about their weaknesses. The Vorthic Empire relies on crystalline technology that resonates at specific frequencies. The hegemony's bioships are vulnerable to quantum disruption. The Nebula Confederation's energy beings can be dispersed by gravitational waves. More information flowed into the ancestors' computers. Weapon frequencies that could shatter crystal ships like glass. Quantum torpedoes that would turn biomechanical vessels into lifeless meat. Gravitational pulse generators that could scatter. Energy beings across light years of space. How many alien ships did you face in the final battle? Juan asked. 150,000, the admiral replied. We destroyed 80,000 of them before we fell. The survivors limped away with their tails between their legs, but they had won through sheer numbers. We're facing 10,000 ships. Now, Xiaojun said, the ancient admiral laughed, a sound full of grim satisfaction. 10,000? Commander, with what I'm giving you, 10,000 alien ships should be a warm-up exercise. Chief Engineer Inha was studying the incoming data with wide eyes. Sir, these weapon upgrades, we could integrate them into our existing systems? The ancestor could become something truly terrifying. Do it, Xiaojun ordered. All of it. I want every advantage our ancestors can give us. As the ancient knowledge flowed into their ship, Xiaojun felt the weight of 50,000 years of human anger settling into his bones. These A's had watched their empire burn, their people die, their civilization crumble. They had waited in the darkness for this moment, the chance to strike back at the aliens who had destroyed everything they loved. Admiral Chun, Xiaojun said. Would you like to come with us? Help us finish what you started. I thought you'd never ask, the ancient commander replied. My ship is dead, but my mind is sharp. I'd be honored to serve under your command. The honor is mine, sir. As the ancestor prepared to leave the debris field, its computers filled with the accumulated knowledge of humanity's greatest military minds. The ship itself had been transformed, its weapons upgraded with technology that the current alien empires couldn't even comprehend. Course plotted for the Nexus Point, Borum announced. The alien fleet is waiting for us. They think they're about to repeat their greatest victory, Admiral Chunwei said. Instead, they're about to face their worst nightmare. Xiaojun smiled as he looked at the tactical display. The aliens had gathered their fleets in the same formation they had used 50,000 years ago. They were so confident in their past success that they hadn't bothered to innovate or adapt. Gaia, he said, any final words from Dr. Shin? She says the circle is about to close, the AI replied. Our ancestors will finally have their justice. The ancestor left the graveyard behind, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of 50,000 years of human determination. Behind them, the ancient AI cores settled back into standby mode, their duty finally complete. The last human warship was no longer alone. It carried the wisdom of an empire, the fury of the fallen, and the promise of vengeance that had waited 500 centuries to be fulfilled. The nexus point blazed with the lights of 10,000 warships. High Admiral Zelanaga stood in the command center of his flagship, a massive crystal vessel that sparkled like a diamond in the starlight. Around him, holographic displays showed the assembled might of 3 galactic empires. "Magnificent," he said, his crystalline voice ringing with satisfaction. "Never before have our 3 peoples united such power." Supreme Queen Veltar's image flickered on the main communication screen. Her insectoid form was beautiful in its alien way, with 4 arms that moved in perfect coordination and compound eyes that reflected the light like jewels. The humans will soil themselves when they see what awaits them. Collective mind Ethan materialized as a swirling cloud of colored gases in its containment field. When it spoke, the voice came from speakers arranged around its plasma form. "Their primitive sensors will detect our fleet from light years away. They will know that resistance is futile." The 3 commanders had gathered their forces in the same formation that had served them for thousands of years. Crystal ships formed the front line, their energy shields glowing with power. Biomechanical vessels filled the center ranks, their living hulls pulsing with organic weapons. Plasma ships drifted through the formation like glowing ghosts, ready to strike with concentrated energy beams. "How long until we can begin the advance?" Queen Veltar asked. "Our scouts report that Earth's pathetic fleet is mobilizing, Admiral," Zelanaga replied. "Perhaps 200 ships, all using primitive fusion drives and chemical explosives. We could destroy them with a single squadron. But where's the fun in that?" Ethan asked, its form shifting colors as it spoke. "I want to see them break. I want to watch their hope die as they realize how outmatched they are." The 3 leaders had been planning this moment for months. Earth was rich in resources, with a population that could be enslaved or eliminated as needed. The humans had shown promise as a species, but they had made the mistake of thinking they could negotiate as equals. "The Galactic Council was generous," Queen Veltar said. "We offered them protectorate status. They could have lived as our servants. Instead, they chose defiance." "Their choice," Admiral Zelanaga agreed. "We have destroyed 17 other species for the same arrogance. Humanity will join them in extinction." Bridge officers moved efficiently around the command centers, monitoring sensors and maintaining communication between the massive fleet. The aliens had done this before many times. They knew exactly how to coordinate their forces for maximum psychological impact. "Signal from the outer perimeter," reported a Vorthic communications officer. "All ships are in position and ready to advance." "Excellent," Admiral Zelanaga said. "Begin the final countdown. In 1 hour, we advance on Earth and show these humans what happens to primitives who refuse to know their place." The fleet began its final preparations. Weapons came online, shields powered up to full strength, and the great ships turned toward the distant Sol system. 10,000 vessels ready to deliver judgment on a species that had dared to say no to their betters. "Admiral," a sensor operator called out suddenly, "we're detecting an anomaly." "What kind of anomaly?" Zelanaga demanded. "Unknown, sir. Something is materializing in the center of our formation. The readings don't match any known technology." On the main display, space began to ripple like water. The distortion grew larger and more pronounced, causing interference with nearby ships' sensors. Several captains reported system malfunctions as reality itself seemed to bend around the growing anomaly. "Is it a weapon?" Queen Veltar asked, her 4 arms moving nervously. "Impossible," Ethan replied. "Humans don't have technology like this. Their ships can barely leave their own solar system." The distortion reached critical mass, and something began to emerge from folded space. At first, it was just a shadow, darker than the void around it. Then details became visible, a hull of black metal that seemed to absorb light, weapon ports that looked like hungry mouths, and a design that was both alien and somehow familiar. "By the Crystal Throne," Admiral Zelanaga whispered. "How big is that thing?" 15 kilometers, sir," the sensor operator replied, his voice shaking. "It's 15 kilometers long." The ship fully materialized in the center of the alien formation, close enough to touch the nearest vessels. Its hull was covered with weapons that the aliens' computers couldn't identify, and energy readings that made no sense according to known. Physics, open communications, Admiral Zelanaga ordered. Demand that they identify themselves. Before the communication officer could comply, every screen in the fleet lit up with an incoming transmission. A human face appeared on the displays. A man with dark hair and calm eyes that held depths of controlled anger. "Attention, alien fleets," the human said. "I am Commander Sejin Han of the human starship Ancestor. You have threatened my people with extinction. You have called us primitive and weak. You have made a terrible mistake." Queen Veltar's compound. Eyes fixed on the image. One ship? They send one ship against 10,000? You think we are children, Commander Han continued. You think we are barely evolved animals who don't understand the galaxy. You are wrong. We are humanity. We are the children of the species that once ruled this galaxy. We have returned. Admiral Zelanaga felt something cold settle in his crystalline stomach. The ship's design was becoming familiar, matching patterns in ancient databases that his people preferred not to access. Run a scan on that vessel. Cross-reference with historical archives. You called us primitive, the human commander sighed. You offered us slavery disguised as protection. You planned our extinction. In 60 seconds, we will demonstrate why your ancestors feared humans. Ethan's plasma form flickered with agitation. Their ancestors? What is he talking about? The scan results appeared on Admiral Zelenaga's screen, and his crystalline heart nearly stopped. The ship's energy signature matched vessels from the ancient war, the conflict that his people had tried to forget for 50,000 years. Impossible, he whispered. The humans were destroyed. We destroyed them. You destroyed our empire, Commander Han said, as if he had heard the Admiral's words. You killed our ancestors. You thought you had eliminated humanity forever, but we endured. We adapted. We survived. And we remembered. More data flowed across the alien screens as their computers analyzed the mysterious ship. The weapon signatures were beyond anything in their databases. The energy output was greater than most stars. The technology represented advances that their civilizations had never achieved. Sir, a hegemony officer said to Queen Veltar, this vessel's capabilities are ... significant. Our weapons may not be effective against it. One ship cannot defeat 10,000, the Queen replied, but her voice lacked conviction. You are correct, Commander Han said, again seeming to respond to their conversations. One ship cannot defeat 10,000. Fortunately for us, we are not just one ship. We are the accumulated fury of 50,000 years. We are the vengeance of the human empire. We are the consequences of your actions. The human's eyes grew hard as winter steel. Your 60 seconds are up. You have chosen to remain here, which we interpret as an act of war against humanity. We will now demonstrate what happens when primitives fight back. Admiral Zelanaga found. His voice, all ships, open fire. Destroy that vessel before... His words were cut off as the ancestor opened fire. The first salvo was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Beams of twisted space-time lanced out from the human ship, passing through shields as if they didn't exist. Where the beams touched alien vessels, the ship simply ceased to exist. Erased from reality down to the quantum level. In the first 10 seconds, 300 ships vanished without a trace. Evasive maneuvers. Admiral Zelanaga screamed, but the words came too late. The aliens had gathered their fleet in a tight formation, confident in their overwhelming numbers. Now that formation had become a death trap. Queen Veltar's image flickered with static as her ship shook under impacts that shouldn't have been possible. What are those weapons? How are they penetrating our shields? They're using technology. From the old empire, Ethan said, its plasma form churning with fear. The humans have rebuilt their ancient arsenal. More alien ships died as the ancestor continued its methodical destruction. Each shot was precisely placed, each target carefully. chosen for maximum psychological impact. The aliens watched their supposedly invincible fleet being torn apart by a single vessel that their sensors could barely comprehend. "Sir," a Vorthek officer reported, "we've lost 800 ships. The enemy vessel is undamaged." Admiral Zelanaga stared at the tactical display in horror. 800 ships destroyed in less than a minute, and the human vessel showed no signs of slowing down. This wasn't a battle, it was an execution. "Signal all ships," he ordered, his crystalline voice. Cracking. Full retreat, emergency dispersal pattern. But even as the order went out, Admiral Zelanaga knew it was too late. The humans had returned, and they had not forgotten what the aliens had done to them 50,000 years ago. The galaxy was about to remember why humanity had once ruled the stars. The alien fleet erupted into chaos as 10,000 ships tried to escape at once. The perfect formation that had taken hours to arrange collapsed in seconds as captains abandoned all coordination in their desperate flight. Commander Seojin Han watched the panic spread through the enemy ranks with cold satisfaction. "Chief Yu, deploy the quantum field generators. I don't want any of them escaping to warn their homeworlds." "Quantum fields active," Chief Engineer In Yu reported. "All hyperspace routes in this system are now blocked. They're trapped with us." The Ancestor moved through the alien formation like death itself, its weapons reaching out to touch ship after ship. Each blast was precisely calculated to cause maximum terror among the survivors. A Vorthek cruiser didn't just explode, it shattered into a million crystal fragments that sparkled in the starlight. A hegemony bioship didn't simply die, its living hull convulsed in apparent agony before going still. "Incoming transmission from the alien command ship," Communications Officer Hyok Chun announced. "Admiral Zelanaga wishes to discuss terms." "Put him through," Seojin ordered. The main screen flickered to show the Vorthek Admiral's crystalline face. His usual arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked very much like fear. "Commander Han, please. We can discuss this like civilized beings." "Civilized?" Seojin asked, his voice deadly quiet. "Tell me, Admiral, were you civilized? When you exterminated the Kaleri? Were you civilized when you enslaved the Vestan Empire? Were you civilized when you planned to glass Earth and sell human children as slaves?" That was different," Zelanaga stammered. "Those species were primitive?" Lieutenant Commander Jiwan Kong suggested from her tactical station. "Barely. Evolved? Not worthy of respect?" Another wave of quantum torpedoes launched from the Ancestor, each one seeking out a different target. The weapons phased through solid matter until they reached the heart of enemy ships, then detonated with forces that rewrote local physics. Alien vessels folded in on themselves, their crews experiencing death in ways that had no names. 3,000 ships destroyed, Jawan reported calmly. 7,000 remaining. Supreme Queen Veltar's image joined the communication. Her forearms were shaking, and her compound eyes reflected the light of dying ships. "Please, Commander." "We surrender. We yield to human authority." "Do you?" Seojin asked. "The same way the Kaleri surrendered? The same way you allowed the Veshans to yield?" He gestured to Navigator Borum Lim, who activated a recording. The alien leaders watched in horror as their own voices played back to them, casual discussions about exterminating humanity, dividing Earth's resources, and processing human children for biological material. "We have been monitoring your communications for months," Seojin explained. "We know exactly what you planned for my species. You were going to kill every man, woman, and child on Earth. Now you're surprised that we object to genocide?" The Ancestor rotated slowly, bringing new weapon arrays to bear on different sections of the alien fleet. These weapons were different reality distortion cannons that made space itself unstable around their targets. Ships caught in the distortion fields experienced time dilation, aging centuries and seconds as their crews watched helplessly. 4,000 ships destroyed, Jawan announced. "The enemy is attempting to form defensive clusters." "Let them," Seojin said. "It just makes targeting easier." Collective mind Ethon materialized on the communication channel, its plasma form flickering with panic. Commander Han, you must understand. We are ancient civilizations. We have existed for millions of years. Surely we can find a solution that benefits everyone. Ancient? Seojun laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. You call yourselves ancient? We have I-cores on this ship that are older than your entire civilizations. You are children playing with toys you don't understand. Gaia, he called to the ship's artificial intelligence. Show them Admiral Chun-Wei. The ancient admiral's image appeared on the communication channel, his face bearing the weight of 50,000 years. Hello again, you miserable wretches. I died fighting your ancestors, but apparently that wasn't enough to teach you manners. The alien leaders stared at the impossible figure in shock. Admiral Chun-Wei had been dead for 50 millennia, a legend. From the ancient war that they preferred not to discuss. Impossible, Admiral Zelenaga whispered. You died. We killed you. You killed my body, Chun-Wei replied. But human minds endure. We've been waiting in the dark for 50,000 years, dreaming of this moment, dreaming of justice. The ancestor unleashed its most devastating weapon yet, the stellar cascade generator. The device reached out across space to touch the system's star, drawing energy from the stellar core and channeling it through dimensional rifts. The collected power of an entire sun focused into beams that could vaporize planets. 5,000. Ships destroyed, Zhuan reported. The enemy formation is collapsing. The remaining alien vessels were fleeing in all directions, but the quantum field kept them trapped in normal space. They crashed into each other in their panic, adding to the destruction without any help from human weapons. Please, Queen Veltar begged, we were wrong, we admit it. We will leave human space forever. We will never threaten your people again. The same promise you made to 17 other species, Admiral Chun-Wei observed. How did that work out for them? Seojin studied the tactical display, watching the alien fleet tear itself apart in terror. Half their ships were gone, and the rest were scattered across the system like leaves in a storm. Jifu, he said quietly, prepare the quantum singularity. Torpedoes, full spread. Sir, Inha replied, those weapons will eliminate everything within 1,000 kilometers of impact. There won't be any survivors, I know. The alien leaders watched in horror as new weapons emerged from the ancestors' hull. The torpedoes were small, no larger than a fighter craft, but they contained forces that could collapse matter into infinitely dense points. Each one was a miniature black hole, stable for just long enough to reach its target. Commander Han, Admiral Zelenaga said desperately, if you destroy us, our home worlds will know that humans are responsible. They will send larger fleets. They will never stop hunting your species, will they? Seojin asked. Or will they remember what happened here and decide that leaving humanity alone is the wisest course of action? He turned to his communications officer. Hayok, open a channel to all surviving alien vessels. I want every ship to hear this. The channel opened, carrying Seojin's voice to thousands of terrified alien crews. Attention, survivors of the Combined Fleet, you came here to exterminate humanity. You called us primitive and weak. You were wrong. The quantum torpedoes launched, streaking toward their targets with impossible speed. Where they struck, space itself collapsed into points of infinite gravity. Alien ships were crushed down to atomic density, their matter compressed into singularities that would exist for microseconds before evaporating in bursts of radiation. We are sending a message to your homeworlds, Seojin continued. Humanity is under our protection. Earth is under our protection. Any species that threatens us will face the same fate that you face now. 6,000 ships died in the space of 10 seconds, their destruction so complete that not even debris remained. The quantum singularities consumed everything, leaving only empty space where the alien fleet had been. 1,000 ships remaining, Jawan reported. They're scattered across the system, engines dead, crews in shock. Let them watch, Seojin said. Let them see what happens next. The ancestor moved to the center of the battlefield, its hull gleaming in the light of distant stars. Around it, space was empty except for radiation clouds and the scattered remnants of alien arrogance. "This is what happens," Seojin announced to the survivors, "when someone threatens humanity. Remember this moment, remember this fear. Remember that we are not the children in this galaxy, you are." The human warship hung motionless in space, its weapons trained on the remaining alien vessels. The survivors could flee now, carrying their terror back to their homeworlds. They would tell stories of the day humanity showed its true strength, and those stories would keep their people away from Earth for generations to come. "Gaia," Seojin said quietly, "signal Earth. Tell Admiral Park that the threat has been eliminated." "Message sent," the AI replied. "And Commander?" "Dr. Shin says she's proud of what we've accomplished today." Seojin nodded, feeling the weight of 50,000 years finally lifting from his shoulders. The ancient war was over at last, and humanity had won. Admiral Minho Park stood in the rebuilt Galactic Council chambers, looking out at representatives from dozens of species. The chamber had been redesigned with human aesthetics in mind: clean lines, warm lighting, and seating that accommodated beings of all sizes and types. The old crystal thrones of the Vorthek were gone, replaced by simple chairs that put everyone on equal footing. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Nexus Point, as historians were already calling it. 3 months since humanity had revealed its true nature to the galaxy. The political changes had been swift and complete. "The new Galactic Federation recognizes all member species as equals," Admiral Park announced to the Assembly. "There will be no protectorates, no tribute payments, and no forced labor. Any species that wishes to leave the Federation may do so at any time." Murmurs of approval filled the chamber. Many of the species present had been enslaved by the old Galactic Council for generations. The concept of voluntary membership was revolutionary to them. Captain Haniel Kim, now bearing the title of Galactic Administrator, stepped forward to address the Assembly. She wore a simple blue uniform with the new Federation symbol, a tree with roots reaching into space, the same emblem carried by the crew of the Ancestor. "We know that many of you have suffered under the old system," she said. "Humanity offers protection to any species that needs it, and assistance to those who wish to rebuild. We will not repeat the mistakes of the previous galactic order." In the front row sat the surviving leaders of the 3 former empires. Admiral Zelenaga's crystalline form was dimmed with defeat, his once proud bearing reduced to a slumped posture of submission. Supreme Queen Veltar kept her 4 arms folded, close to her body, her compound eyes reflecting the light nervously. Collective Mind Ethon flickered weakly in its containment field, its plasma form barely maintaining cohesion. The 3 powers had surrendered unconditionally within hours of the Nexus Point battle. Their homeworlds had received the recordings of humanity's demonstration, and their governments had immediately ordered complete capitulation. The alternative was facing more ships like the Ancestor, and no one in the galaxy wanted that. "The Federation will be headquartered on Earth," Admiral Park continued, "but major decisions will be made by majority vote of all member species. Humanity will have 1 vote, the same as everyone else." A Kalari representative raised a tentacle. The squid-like beings had been among the first to seek Federation protection, having narrowly escaped extinction at the hands of the hegemony decades earlier. "Admiral Park, what assurance do we have that humanity will not become the same kind of oppressor as the previous council?" It was a fair question, and one that Park had expected. "You have the assurance of our actions," he replied. "We could have destroyed the alien fleets completely. Instead, we allowed survivors to return home with our message. We could have conquered your worlds. Instead, we offer alliance." Dr. Yuna Lee stepped forward from her position as Chief Intelligence Advisor. "More importantly, you have the assurance of our history. Humanity ruled the galaxy once before, 50,000 years ago. We built a civilization based on cooperation, not domination. We're simply returning to our natural way of doing things." The chamber fell silent as beings absorbed this information. Most species knew the legends of the ancient human empire, but they had thought them myths. The revelation that humans had returned to reclaim their heritage had shaken the galaxy to its core. "What of the ancient technologies?" asked a Vestan diplomat. The reptilian being's scales shifted color as he spoke, betraying his nervous excitement. "Will humanity share the knowledge of the ancestor civilization?" "Gradually," Admiral Park replied. "We will share medical technology immediately. There's no reason for any being to suffer from diseases we can cure. Transportation and manufacturing technologies will follow as the Federation stabilizes. Military technologies will remain restricted." This announcement caused another wave of murmurs. Species that had been under alien rule for centuries suddenly found themselves offered freedoms they had only dreamed of. Medical advances that could extend their lifespans, manufacturing techniques that could end scarcity on their worlds, and the protection of the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Zelanaga finally spoke, his crystalline voice barely audible. "Administrator Kim, what is to become of our people? We have committed terrible crimes against the galaxy." Haniel looked at the former council leaders with something that might have been pity. "Your governments will pay reparations to the species you enslaved. Your military forces will be disbanded and your warships scrapped. But your people will not be punished for the actions of their leaders. You're offering us mercy?" Queen Veltar asked, her forearms trembling. "After what we plan to do to your species?" "We're offering you justice," Haniel replied. "There's a difference. You will face trial for your crimes, but your peoples will be given the chance to build better societies. The trials would be conducted by the Federation, with representatives from all member species serving as judges. It would be the first time in galactic history that former oppressors were held accountable by their victims." A communication alert chimed, and the main display activated to show Commander Xiaojun Han aboard the Ancestor. The massive warship hung in Earth orbit, visible to anyone who looked up at the night sky. It served as both protector and reminder of humanity's capabilities. "Administrator Kim," Xiaojun said, "we've received confirmation that the last hegemony slave camps have been liberated. The prisoners are being returned to their homeworlds with full medical support." "Excellent news, Commander." "How many survivors were recovered?" "Over 2 million beings from 43 different species. The Ancestor is coordinating with Federation medical ships to provide treatment for those who need it." The chamber erupted in applause. 2 million beings who had been condemned to slavery were now free, thanks to humanity's intervention. It was a powerful demonstration of the Federation's commitment to justice. As the applause died down, Admiral Park activated another display showing star charts of the galaxy. Green dots marked Federation member worlds, while red areas showed regions still controlled by hostile forces. "Our work is not finished," he announced. "There are still species in this galaxy that profit from slavery and oppression. Pirates who prey on merchant ships, warlords who terrorize helpless worlds, and criminals who think the law doesn't apply to them." The display zoomed in on several red zones, showing pirate bases and criminal strongholds that had operated with impunity under the old council system. "The Federation will bring law and order to these regions," Admiral Park continued. "Not through conquest, but through justice. We will offer these groups one chance to reform. If they refuse, they will face the consequences." Commander Hans' image nodded approvingly. "The Ancestor stands ready to deal with any threats to Federation members. We've been asleep for too long while criminals terrorized innocent beings." As the session continued, reports came in from across the galaxy. Slave worlds were declaring their independence and requesting Federation membership. Criminal organizations were surrendering rather than face human retaliation. Entire sectors that had been plagued by violence for centuries were experiencing peace for the first time in living memory. Dr. Yuna Lee received a priority message on her tablet and stood to address the chamber. "I've just received word from our deep space exploration teams. We've located 17 hidden human colonies, survivors from the fall of the ancient empire. They're beginning to reveal themselves now that humanity has reclaimed the galaxy. The implications were staggering. If 17 human colonies had survived in secret for 50,000 years, humanity's population might be far larger than anyone had imagined. Each colony would bring its own preserved knowledge and technology, adding to the Federation's capabilities. How many people are we talking about? Haniel asked. Preliminary estimates suggest at least 50 billion humans scattered across the galaxy, Yuna replied. Some colonies have populations in the hundreds of millions. Admiral Park smiled as he contemplated the future. Humanity wasn't just returning to the galaxy, they were coming home to a family they had never known existed. As the session drew to a close, Admiral Park looked around the chamber at the representatives of dozens of species. Former slaves sat next to former oppressors, all of them working together to build something better than what